Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Phoenix Wisdom Podcast. I am your host, Janet Sandberg. I am a soul interpreter, divine channel, Reiki master teacher, and intuitive coach with over 35 years of experience. And I help people connect to their soul's purpose and passions in order to rebuild their lives with meaning following major life transitions, loss, suicidal ideation, and just the general stuff that happens in life. Today, we are joined by Nelanthini Rajesan. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Nelanthini Rajesan. I'm an empowerment coach and speaker. My particular focus is helping women overcome the limiting beliefs that they've adopted because of society and rewriting their story to live their best, most authentic, beautiful life. And this all stemmed from significant moments and events in my life that brought me to literally the darkest place in my life and kind of literally like a phoenix, like just like rose up from there. So I'm a daughter of refugees. So my parents came to Canada when my mom was like 18, my dad was like 23, 22. I was born here a couple of years later. And essentially the reason why they came to Canada was to escape a civil war from Sri Lanka. So my ethnicity is Tamil,
Okay.
and this war in Sri Lanka took place for 26 years.
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
that one was a rough war, and the war ended when I was in grade 8, so 13, 14 years old. So this war pretty much took place for half my life.
Yeah.
It's a very strong part of my story because I grew up in a country in a world where it wasn't being recognized as a genocide. Last month, May marked 15 years of it not being recognized as a genocide. Growing up, it wasn't really, people had a stigma against our ethnicity. So I grew up with the struggle of really connecting with my ethnicity. I was trying to distance myself from it because I saw what people are saying of us out in the public. I saw how the news was, not advertising, but like marketing and like presenting things in a way that made us kind of look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And no one was really digging into why everything was happening.
Right.
And so I grew up with that. And then I was the eldest daughter of immigrants, of refugee parents, actually. So for me, being the eldest daughter, as well as being old enough to understand what was going on back home, as well as understand what my parents went through, as well as understand the importance of being better, overachieving, that all
Mm.
that couple made my life from a child to perform.
So much pressure. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. It's perform. When I say perform is get the good grades, get the awards, get into university, get the fancy degree, get the corporate job, and just keep on ticking those boxes.
Yeah.
That was my life purpose. It wasn't about, oh, what kind of passions can I explore? Like nowadays you see kids on TikTok like expressing themselves through baking, art, makeup, dance. I didn't think I had that option. My option was getting things done, like getting the shit done, getting all these tick boxes. And so that's the pressure that I grew up with, being perfect, the need to perform.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for decades. Got graduated, got the corporate job, did all these things. But I felt like I was performing. I felt I would come home drained all the time. I
Oh,
came
yeah.
home feeling like I couldn't be myself. I came home always feeling like I was on edge. I was worried about causing problems, someone not liking me, someone, not accepting me for who I am. And it was in February 2021 where I got a phone call. And this phone call was my employer telling me that a coworker of mine had died by suicide.
I'm sorry.
And this was a coworker that I was extremely close with. She was like my little sister and brilliant girl. She was an intern, finished her internship, literally had a job ready to line up for her. But she was like, I think I'm just gonna go to apply to MIT because she's a freaking genius. Like she like that just kind of shows you like she's the most genuine, beautiful, humble, kind, smart, funny person. Like
Mm-hmm.
the list can go on and on. She is what your parents would be like, why can't you be like her?
Right.
My parents have literally said that to me. But the thing is, she was perfect in my eyes. Like, I thought she was like, "You know what? Like, this is, like, someone I want my kids to look up to. Like, I want them to be like, 'Oh, Auntie Janice, like, we love her. We wanna be like her.'" But so when I got this phone call, I was confused. And
Yeah.
then The next day, I got her suicide letter. And I was reading her letter and certain things started to click. She started saying things like, I was achieving everything. I don't know why I'm not happy. I have all these people that love me, but I don't know why I'm not happy. I was doing things the right way, the only right way to live. And it was when she said that precise
Oh,
line, that exact line, that it clicked. She was telling my story back to me. And
wow.
what 5 years ago, from February 2021, I was contemplating the same fate as my friend because I was in such a dark place where I was doing well in school. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I was trying so hard to get his approval, get my mom's approval, get the grades, get the co-op internships, get all these things, be the sister, be the perfect daughter, da, 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 whatever you name it.
Mm,
I wasn't getting the validation or approval. I just kept getting backlash and criticism that I know I made a mistake. I wasn't doing good enough. I'm not doing as much as I could be doing, or there's something always wrong with me. And when I would speak up, I'll get backlash. I would be told, "You're selfish. You're causing problems. You're a bitch." Like you're all these words. They would say that to me. So imagine like you're checking these tick boxes off
mhm,
because that's the right thing to do, but it's not good enough. You speak that's not good enough. If
mhm.
anything, that's worse. So in my head, I'm thinking like,
It's a
what's the
no-win situation.
I said, "What's the point? Like, I'm not good enough. What I want doesn't matter, and I'm just alone. Like, I'm just performing. I'm like literally a performer, and I'm like, no one cares about me." And I was literally thinking like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I just had got into a fight with one of my family members about, and it literally was like me trying to speak up, and they just said something to me and just set me off. And I'm just like, what's the point? No one's listening to me. No one cares. My
Mm.
own boyfriend at the time I literally messaged my boyfriend being like, hey, I don't think I can do this. Like, I think I can't, I'm done. And he's like, he th he wasn't taking it seriously. He's like, "Ah, babe, it's fine, don't worry," and then he just didn't respond to me for the next 3 hours. Yeah. So, like, couple that, like, the people that I thought were supposed to look after me were the ones that are actually causing me more harm. Literally, I'm like, "I'm done, like, what's the point? I'm done, like, heaven has to be way better than this." Like, so I messaged 3 of my friends and I said, "I can't do this anymore, like, I'm done." And I'm not even joking, all of them one called me, one message like, but all of them messaged me, one offered me to come over and stay at her place. They were so supportive and fast and responsive because they didn't know that part about me, and as soon as I mentioned I was having these dark thoughts, it was game over. They're already, like, coming at me being like, "No, like, you're perfect the way you are. It's these people's expectations that got shoved down your throat
Yeah.
that's making you feel this way. It's you being a pushover. It's you allowing these people to make you feel this way, and you devaluing who you are is why you feel this way. You're feeling like crap right now, and those people are either watching TV,
Mm.
sleeping nicely, or just eating a nice bucket of chicken, and you're here feeling like crap." And
Yeah.
that's when it resonated with me. Like, what's the point? Like, I'm like, "You know what? Like, screw this. Like, screw you guys. Like, let me go live my life."
Screw
And
these expectations.
literally screw these expectations. And
Mm.
when I read my friend's suicide letter, like, it brought me back to that moment, and it kind of opened something within me because 'cause I'm just like, "This girl, this beautiful soul that I lost, she was like my little sister." I have 2 younger sisters in my house. What are they going through? If I went through this and my friend
Mhm.
went through this, and only one of us is here right now. Now let me take a step back. What about my sisters? One is in high school, one is in elementary school, right? What are they going through? Oh my god, what's the girl in the next house going through? What is okay, let's go beyond my town. Let's go beyond my Ontario. Let's go beyond the country. What are we all going through?
Mhm.
Millions of women, children, like children are going through this.
Yeah.
Feel like they're doing what they're told, but it's not good enough. They're doing what they're told, but they're not happy. And their life just becomes not about exploring who they are. It's not about figuring out their strengths and weaknesses and their passions. It's about performing. And I was 24 years old when this all happened, 24, 25. So for 25 years, to put that in perspective, for 25 years, I wasn't being myself. For 25 years, I was performing for other people. For 25 years, I had terrible thoughts about myself. I would emotionally lash out at people. I would have lack of motivation, I would binge eat, I there was a phase where I would drink a lot, and I didn't know I was just trying to numb everything because I didn't know, like,
Right.
you have a hole and you're grasping at something, and for me, it was food, bad relationships, emotional lash out, or an alcohol, and it was in that moment I was like, "Enough's enough, like, screw society. Like, how dare they tell me what I need to do? How dare I allow society and these people to shove these things down my throat for decades, decades?" And it pains me because there's some people that are much older than I am who have gone through different levels, different things in their life, and they still are going through it. That hurts so much.
Yeah. Wow. So what'd you do? Obviously, you were like, "Screw the expectations," and then you just, like, quit your job and
I
built a new
actually
life for yourself?
yeah, and I moved to an island.
I hope you dumped that guy.
Oh yeah, immediately, immediately. But, honestly, for me, it took me years and stages, and I wish I had someone to guide me through this because it
Mhm.
took me years. Okay, so it took me a couple of months to leave that guy, but then as soon as I left him, I was like, "Whoa, like this is weird." Like I feel bad saying this. When I broke up with that guy, I didn't cry. I was smiling.
Yeah,
And it was
I
so weird
believe
'cause,
that.
like, other girls I would break up with their boyfriends of X number of years, I would cry, and I'd be like I'm just, like, calling my friends and be like, "Let's go out today, guys." And they're like, "Are you sure you're okay?" I'm like, "No," like, I feel like I'm, like, light, like, I feel like I can breathe. Because the way that I can explain this is when you're not being your authentic self, when you're trying to perform for other people, you
Mhm.
feel like you're choking. You feel like you're trying to breathe through a straw.
Yeah.
And the moment that you leave that situation or the person where you can truly be yourself again, why? And I genuinely ask this, why do you either cry, feel drained, or just want to lie down? Or why do you reach for that beer? Why do you reach for that wine glass? Why do you reach for that cake? And think it because for me, I would always cry. I'd always cry whenever I would leave a situation or scenario where I felt like I was breathing through a straw. And that's what not living authentically is literally a good representation of me saying is you're breathing through a straw and you're carrying all these things on your back. And then as soon as you begin to breathe again and you take things off your back, your body just crumbles because it's been under tension for so long.
Yeah.
So for me, it's slowly not feeling out what I actually like and what I don't like because I did this for 25 years. 25 years I was performing.
Yeah.
And I was
You
doing a
only
pretty
knew
damn
what
good
everybody
job.
else liked and wanted.
Exactly. I was
Yep.
doing a pretty damn good job performing for everyone else, but I had no idea who the hell I was. So it took me years to figure out who I was. It took me years to filter. I've lost friends. I've stopped talking to people because they weren't helping me be my authentic self. I felt like I wasn't able to be myself around them. And
Yeah.
that's not nothing to them. It was just the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah.
But for me, it was really slowly figuring out who I am, taking more time to meditate. And when I say meditate, I know people may roll their eyes, but there's two types of meditation. There's, sitting in, silence and guided meditation, the stereotypical like sit, stay still. But for me, movement meditation is what helped me
Mhm.
because I'm an anxious person. So for me, just sitting still makes my anxiety go crazy.
Yep.
So for me, movement meditation, if you're someone with anxiety, I'd highly recommend because movement meditation, your body is when I say movement, don't do a HIIT workout. I'm telling you, go for a walk, go for a walk, jump rope. Those are my 2 recommendations, jump rope and walking. Why? Because your body gets in a rhythm
Yeah.
and your body goes on autopilot. Because think about it, do you think about walking or just body does it? Same thing with jump rope, right? You're just trying to keep the rhythm. So once your body's in that rhythm state, your
Mhm.
body is focused on that one task,
Yeah.
and your mind finally has a chance to speak up. And what I mean by speak up is, those random memories that like come up in your mind. You're like, whoa, that happened 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or that's such a random memory. Why did that come up? I urge you to listen to it because your body's trying to tell you something. Maybe that experience has a key lesson or a key moment or a pivotal thing for you that you need to pay attention to. Pay attention to it and understand it. Why? Because for me personally, moments where terrible moments in my life came up and I was like, "Why am I thinking about these?" And it's because my mind is trying to speak up and say, "Do you remember this time that you were in this scenario and you cried because of ABCD? Like, why?" Or, "Do you remember that time that you're with this person and you didn't feel good? Do you remember when you did this?" Like, I honestly think the reason why your mind is coming up with all these memories and things in your mind is because it wants you to listen.
Yeah.
Once you listen, you start to dissect, oh, what's happening? Okay, connect the dots, and you start having epiphanies. And then the next step is journaling because you have all these epiphanies, you need to put them down somewhere and don't put it on
Absolutely.
notes. Please don't. Put it in a journal and you can lock your journal, hide your journal. Honestly, I have a journal and I told my husband off limits. It's a hard boundary and he
Yeah.
respects it well. You can hide it in your bed, hide it in your underwear drawer, hide it somewhere, but I understand some people are nosy, but tell them have a boundary and hide it. Even put in your car like dashboard, just like lock it if that's how you want to do it. But I highly recommend a journal. Why? Because you can put your thoughts down and reflect upon what's happened. For me, journaling is so important because you see your growth. And what I mean by growth is not your achievements. I'm saying your growth as in
Yes.
your emotional resilience, your values have changed. If I go back to my journal, I used to write about how important money was. When I go now, my journal prompts, my desires, my hopes for myself is more about a life of freedom, a life of adventure, a life of play, a life of love, a life where I can spend time with family, and a life where I can explore. So that alone is growth because my values, reconnected with my values. Where money is great and all, but for me, I'm not chasing more money. I just want to live my life. I want to learn. I want to grow. And seeing that growth in yourself, seeing how you've overcome a lot of obstacles and challenges is a great way for you to validate yourself, to
Yes.
show your own growth because no one knows your true growth except for you.
Yeah.
And that's why I honestly recommend journaling. Keep your journals, reflect on it because it's so amazing to see. Because on the darkest days, I always go back through my journal and be like, "Oh my god, like, I can't believe, like, I did that. Oh, I can't believe I went through that, or I can't believe that was my concern, like, years ago.
Mhm.
It's not even a concern now," like and it helps you, and I always recommend just going through your journals on, like, a day, and, like, people journal you don't have to journal every day. You can journal once a week. I use the lunar cycle to help me journal, full moon, new moon. It's
Yeah.
easy, it's pre-scheduled. It's like I put like candles. I have like a nice cookie. It's very romantic in the setting that I have. But I also journal when I feel anxious and I don't know why. Because I sit there and I literally say to myself, why am I anxious? Or I have a guidebook where people can go through the journaling prompts because people are so stuck in the 5 minute quick daily journal prompts. Like, how do I feel today? How do I want to make my day awesome? Like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
my ebook goes deeper than that because that you just start going on autopilot when you answer those questions. But you have questions that truly ask you to question deep inside, like what are your values? Do you know what your values are? What are your actions? Are your actions aligning? Like and this guidebook helps people start that journey to understand if they themselves are living authentically. And if the answer is no, then at least you've done the first step of understanding that you haven't been. And
Yeah.
like final tip I would say is just like temperature checks. And I say this because journaling and meditation, you schedule time for it. Whereas temperature checks you can do anywhere, anytime, any place. In a meeting, when your mom and dad are fighting, when you're watching a game, when your kids are fighting, anywhere, because no one knows you're doing it. And that's the best part. Because everyone is so consumed with themselves. No one will notice you doing a 60-second body scan of trying to figure out why you feel anxious. Why are your shoulders tight? Why is your heart racing? Why are my hands shaking? Why is my throat tight? Why do I have a migraine? Like all these things, that's what a body scan, a temperature check does because you give your body a chance to speak and you try to figure out what's making you anxious or fearful or uncomfortable. Because a lot of people don't do these temperature checks throughout the day and they get home and they break down or they
Yeah.
reach for that bottle of water or wine or they reach for that cake or they lash out at their family. It's because their body was like remember that analogy of like breathing through a straw and carrying things on your back? Imagine
Mhm.
doing that for 16 hours a day and then you come home and then you just crumble. Like, you have to
Yeah.
do these temperature checks as you give your body and your mind to breathe and relax. And that's I
Mhm.
would say, like, those 3, movement meditation, journaling, temperature checks, those 3 are just critical, critical things that I urge everyone to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are great tips. And journaling, like, there's so many different ways to journal. I kept a journal from like when I was 14 until I was, I don't know, probably in my 30s, I want to say. And I didn't write every day, but every few days or whatever. And it was mostly just, what was going on in my life and teenage drama and that kind of thing. But at one point, my ex-husband, when we were still married, read them and then used what was written in them against me. It was, needless to say, an emotionally abusive marriage. And I could not keep a journal decades. Like that was probably, more than 15 years ago. And I tried like several times over the years because it was so good for me. I love journaling. My mental health was so much better when I journaled, even if it was just writing about the silly things that went on with my friends or, the party I went to or whatever. But it helped to get all of that stuff out. And the writing it and writing by hand just helps you process stuff. And so I tried and I tried, and every time I would pick it up, I would be, well, while I was still with him, of course, terrified that he was going to read it again. But even after that, it was just like I had so much trauma associated
I
with
was gonna say,
journaling that like it just took me so long. And I've only just recently
mhm,
started to be able to journal again, which again also is interesting, shows my growth, right? Like that
yeah.
I couldn't journal for so long and now I'm starting to be able to, but building the habit again is another thing. Um,
Yeah, first of all, I'm so sorry that your privacy was just shattered like that, and also that's an incredible traumatic event, and honestly, the fact that you have overcome that and you're at that point where you're starting to do it again, like, that's just amazing. That's just amazing growth on its own. Like, do
Thanks.
you do stuff for yourself to make you feel safe when you're journaling?
I don't really have to now. I think now it's more
Okay.
finding the time, making the time to do it because it's not habit anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, now I just leave my journal like lying all over the house and
Amazing, I love that.
yeah, because I know I'm married to an amazing guy now, and I know he would never touch it. We've
Exactly.
never talked about it. I just know that I can trust him and it's all good. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that I during the pandemic, I published a journal.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so one of the things that I do with my client is that I receive messages from spirit, from the universe or whatever. So when the world shut down, I needed a project and I knew a lot of people needed they had more time to explore who they were authentically, who they really were and not who everybody expected them to be. So I used some of those messages as journal prompts. And then people could kind of think about them and be like, "Oh, what does this mean to me? Who am I, when I reflect in this way?" Um, And I also thought, yes, it was kind of funny at the time that here I am publishing a journal for other people when I myself still wasn't able to journal.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
I recognize the importance of it, and I'm like, someday this is also gonna help me.
I feel like journaling is probably one of the only places where you could just have a conversation with yourself without pure judgment. And I
Yes.
don't know what it is, but when you have a conversation in your mind, for some reason, the negative voice speaks louder. When you're
Mhm.
journaling, I think it's because it's out of your mind, the negative voice can't speak as loud. So
Yeah,
for
and
me,
you're focused on the writing, the physical act of writing, so that takes more concentration. So you're only thinking about what's coming out.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, that's why I love journaling. So therapeutic, I do, like, little doodles and stuff in my journal, and I look back, I'm like, "Oh, cute, I was really gung ho about this," or, "Oh, yeah," like, it's great to see, but I really it's just a tool that I want everyone to try without judgment, and I
Mhm.
always tell people, like, start small, like, if you want, write on a piece of paper and burn it. A lot of people have, like, that fear of, "Oh, someone's gonna see it, someone's gonna read it." Write it down, kind of, like, sit with it for a bit, and then, like, burn it after, because if that's your fear, and then when you start feeling safer and safer and you actually wanna, like I mentioned, like, look back on your progress, keep a journal, put a lock on it, but set that boundaries, and if, like you mentioned, like, I hope no one goes through what you went through, but, there's always ways to get around. You can have it on your phone, there's always different
Mhm.
journaling ways, but I personally like the old pen and paper,
Yeah.
uh, it's more therapeutic, it's less distractions that way,
Yeah.
so I urge people to try and just give their mind and body a chance to just speak out.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you, going back to, being the child of refugees in a new country, and I've had friends who were children of immigrants, not necessarily refugees, because that's just even more added pressure. But that being sort of between two cultures,
Yeah.
like I know a lot of people struggle with that as well. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, for me, I was trying so hard to prove that I wasn't my ethnicity, given
Mhm.
my situation. I was trying so hard to be Canadian, to be, westernized, even though I was born and raised here. So it's kind of odd. And I would notice like my other cousins would be a little bit more embracing of that culture and ethnicity, but I wasn't. I was struggling with it. I think because they grew up in an area where there was more people, more Tamil community in their vicinity. Whereas for me, I grew up in an area was predominantly an Italian area or a white area. So for me, there wasn't I was often the only one of me in my
Right.
class. So I wasn't the norm, whereas my cousins grew up in areas where there was more people like them, so they were able to connect with those people and they didn't feel alone. But I felt alone growing up. So for me, I struggled so hard to connect with my ethnicity. It felt kind of like a dark part of myself that I never embraced. And it was kind of weird because now I see that as my biggest regret. I wish I embraced the culture more. I wish I, embraced my ethnicity more. And now, gratefully, I think it's just God's blessing, but I'm married to someone who's so embraced in he's knowledgeable of the culture, he's knowledgeable of our ethnicity, and he helps me have these conversations with my parents. Like, to this day, I kind of feel shame a little bit that I didn't embrace my ethnicity as much, and he recognizes that, and he's such a great support in the sense of he is willing to have these conversations with me when I ask him questions. He's willing to take me out and show me places. He's willing to have these conversations with my parents and help guide the conversations when I feel a little bit embarrassed or like shameful almost. And I hate that feeling because I shouldn't feel that way, but it's just I've tried so hard to be one way and
Mhm.
shove my true part of my identity, a part of my critical part of my identity down for years of decades.
Yeah.
So for me, that's I think the one thing I wish upon people is I know politically there's a lot of things happening in the world right now.
Mhm.
No matter what the media says, who your ethnicity is, be proud of that. Don't be shy to embrace who you are. I know some people that are a bit shy to share who they part of themselves now because of what's going on in the world, and I went through that, and I'm telling you, please don't. There's so many I feel like now the world and social media is a little bit more forgiving and more understanding. During my time, there was no social media, so people just saw the news, and that was one-sided. So I urge you now, like, the world has come quite some distance, so please embrace who you are. Please celebrate your ethnicity. Please, if you're a child or, in your teens or 20s, like listening to this, like, please don't let go of your ethnicity because when your parents are gone, when your grandparents are gone, like that's something that you can keep with you for the rest of your life. Because for me, I'm worried that when my parents are gone, who am I going to turn to learn about my culture and ethnicity? I have to Google it. And I hate
Mm.
that myself. I hate that. So I just beg you guys all to just embrace who you are. Don't hide it. Don't be ashamed of your ethnicity. Don't be ashamed of your culture. Please embrace it because take it for someone who regrets it. You will regret it years down the line. When you see more people around you are embracing it, when you have kids, if you decide to have kids, when you notice that you notice the beautiful parts of your culture and you just feel you feel like a black sheep in it because you're so disconnected from it and you just feel like an imposter. So I just honestly, that's my biggest advice. Like, please don't hide who you are. Just embrace it.
Love that. Thank you. And I also want to commend you on reaching out to your friends, when you were at that point where you're like, that's it, I'm done. And even though you were shut down by the boyfriend and, you couldn't talk to your parents and everything, you still kept trying and you reached out to different people. That was took so much strength. And that's exactly what we need to do. So you were a great example of what to do when the despair becomes overwhelming, just keep trying. And then you know who your real friends are too.
Exactly, because all it takes is just one person to see you and hear you.
Mhm,
That's all I'm saying. It takes one person. And it takes that one person, and from there, you can figure out, you can grow and find more people like. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They think that's just one person. But for me, because of that critical moment of my life, now I have a lovely group of friends and people that I love and
mhm.
family that I can reach out to whenever, and I know that they will always have my back. So please, if just start with one person and you can build your tribe from there.
Yes. Lovely. Do you have any last words of advice for people who might finding themselves in those dark places right now?
I would say that trust the universe. I'm a big person in the universe and signs, and just have faith that anytime when you have a dark moment in your life, anytime when you have an obstacle that just seems overwhelming, it's because the universe is trying to make you stronger. It's trying to prepare you for something greater. It's trying to help you see something about yourself. Because if it wasn't for these moments that I just talked about in today's, I would not be who I am today. I would not be as happy as I am today. It gets better. And I think that's the number one thing I hope people recognize is have faith. Whether you're religious or not, have faith in something. Have faith in the universe, have faith that it will get better, and have faith that things are happening for you, not at you. And I
Mhm.
think that's a key thing. Take every opportunity to learn and grow. Take every obstacle and darkness as an opportunity to know that you can become radiant again.
Yeah.
The universe is just helping you level up and grow and learn something.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And yeah, it does get better. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it does. It's what this podcast is for is all of this living proof that it gets better. So thank you, Nelanthony, for being here today and sharing your story with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, and it was such a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valuable, you are meant for more, and that it really does get better. If you are in crisis, there are numbers that you can call or text to get the help that you need. That information for Canada and the US is in the description below each episode. If you are in immediate crisis, please call 911. We love you, and I hope you'll listen again.